Leo,
Yeah?
you run your own business, right?
I like to think so.
What would you say is the most important element for you to gain a competitive advantage?
I guess the quality of my customer service.
Good call. Did you know a recent survey showed that most Australian businesses feel that way?
Well, it makes sense.
And a major threat to that is an increase in English language literacy and numeracy issues.
Really?
Yeah. Did you know 46% of working-age Australians have difficulty with reading skills and 53% have difficulty with numeracy?
So almost half of Australia's workforce can't read?
Well, a lot of them can read, but have problems understanding and communicating information. In fact, a lot of them are highly educated. That can often make the issue worse.
How's that?
Let's say you have someone working for you that has recently moved to Australia from another country and English isn't their first language. They can speak it very well, but they might have difficulties understanding certain things. But they're well educated, highly educated in a lot of these cases, and admitting the issue is just too embarrassing. So they don't seek out help. There have been cases in the healthcare industry where a simple lack of understanding, say the difference between milligrams and millilitres, has resulted in a fatal dosage being administered.
That's pretty bad.
It sure is. And it's not an issue that's restricted to people from non-English speaking backgrounds. Many people with language literacy and numeracy issues are born and educated in Australia, but they have simply missed out on developing these skills because of a whole range of reasons.
But my business doesn't deal in life or death scenarios.
Well, look at it this way. The more insecure your staff feel, the lower your productivity and the higher your staff turnover. One company found that after tailoring a language literacy and numeracy program for their staff, they had a 40% decrease in staff turnover and an almost $150,000 increase in savings. More importantly, the staff were happy and motivated.
And provided better customer service?
Exactly. Another trial used the Australian Core Skills Framework to assess the impact of language literacy and numeracy training on various participants. This trial showed a 38% increase in communication core skills and a 64% increase in learning core skills. Imagine how much more efficiently and effectively staff with improved learning and communication skills could pass information on to other staff members. That would substantially decrease your on-the-job training times and increase your potential talent pool. It would also help create a safe work environment.
So it's not that those people can't read and write at all or they can't perform any sort of numeracy tasks, but they have difficulty with the everyday tasks that they're required to perform.
Oftentimes I think people think it's someone else's problem, and I think it's all of our problems, and we need to all address it.
All of these people are incredibly valued workers, and it's really up to the employer to start taking a bit of initiative in making sure that they've got the skills to do their job.
Here we're dealing with people. If you make a mistake, someone could die or someone could get very badly hurt.
Numeracy becomes really important when it comes to any kind of measurements and ratios of things, particularly in medications.
Anna started caring for Mr. Johnson 6 months ago. She was initially employed to help out around the house, run his errands and make sure he takes his medication. In that time, he has come to depend on her, not just for the help around the house, but for the company she provides. They share the same dry sense of humour. When she started, his medication was simple. 2 pills at 10 a.m. and 2 again at 3 p.m. Recently, however, his medication has changed and his new medication comes in liquid form. He needs to take 200 milligrams at a ratio of 100 milligrams per 5 millilitres. She has managed to hide it from her co-workers, but Anna doesn't know the difference between milligrams and millilitres. So she pours out an amount that is 40 times the actual dosage, potentially fatal. It can be confronting to have to admit areas in which you have difficulties, but the consequences if you don't can be much worse. Instead of hiding, Anna talks to her employer about the difficulties she's having. She's a good worker and they don't want to lose her, so they organise a numeracy course tailored to her specific needs. When Mr. Johnson's medication changes, she is confident and prepared, leaving Mr. Johnson to get on with his joke.
if people are being asked to write reports, if people are working in the sector that we work in particular, community services and health, it's crucial that they have those literacy levels and those numeracy levels. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't get support through a whole range of aids, but the managers need to know what those aids are, and the service providers need to know what aids are out there, what things can I use, how can I develop better technology that's going to compensate somebody for having that literacy or language problem that they may have.
Larissa is a childcare worker who is known for her great rapport with children. She also has a reputation for being someone that goes above and beyond. It's not uncommon for her to work extra time to help out. Unfortunately, on this particular shift, a child under Larissa's care has had a bit of a fall. It's okay, accidents happen, and there was nothing Larissa could have done differently to avoid the incident. But things start to go wrong for Larissa when she attempts to fill out the incident report. Unable to understand the form clearly, she eventually gives up, meaning there's no official record of the incident. Later, when attempting to explain the details of the incident to the child's understandably distressed parent, Larissa's limited communication skills become exposed. Larissa refers the parent to her supervisor. The frustrated parent now feels that the person caring for their child is irresponsible and registers a complaint. The complaint is then referred on to head office and official action is taken. Larissa escapes with a warning this time, but a warning that stays on her record. 2 more and they will have no choice but to fire her. Had Larissa mentioned her communication difficulties to her employer, they could have taken the necessary steps to get her some training in that area. When she spoke to the parent, she could have explained exactly what happened. She also would have been able to show the parent the detailed incident report. Armed with the facts, the parent can feel safe that the channels of communication with their child's carer are well and truly open.
And I think that with the new expectations that are coming upon disability service providers, we will need to be showing that we have best practice in a whole range of things, and including the way we educate staff, the way we support staff, and the way we give people skills so that they can do the job that we say we're going to do.
Brendan has been working as a disability support worker for about 12 years, but he only started working in the loading bay a few weeks ago. He has a reputation for being a dependable and hard worker, often doing the jobs that others would rather avoid. At school, he threw himself into sports and any activities that would keep him outdoors. Being in the classroom just didn't hold his attention, which is why being able to read wasn't something Brendan cared too much about. He's learnt to bluff his way in the workplace. Other people are responsible for the admin side of the job, and most warning signs have pictures he can easily understand, but not all of them. If Brendan's employer had made a language literacy skills check part of his induction process, they would have been able to offer Brendan assistance. That way, he could have read the sign. His employer, being aware of these issues, might be prompted to erect signs that are more accessible and easy to understand for everyone. Furthermore, educating the workers, like Brendan, helps make them educators for other staff, creating a much safer and confident workplace.
There are a lot of people we employ with a lot of great skills, but we also know that there are people who, some of those people need to learn other things, and if we can make it such that people aren't afraid to say, well, look, I can't do that, I need some help with that, and if we're also proactive and make sure that we make that easy for people, and I think that there's a real benefit in that.
Angela has been a support worker for 16 years. Anyone that knows her will tell you she was born for this job. Like many in her industry, it wasn't so much that she chose the job as the job chose her. One aspect of her profession that Angela hasn't always loved is the administration side. She understands the need for keeping records, but her strengths lie in her interpersonal skills. Recently, Angela's employer has decided to update their system. Enter the 21st century, as they put it. Now all the records are done on computer. Angela uses computers every now and then for personal use. She sends emails and surfs the web. But the system that her employer is using for admin is a lot more complicated than just sending an email. Angela is confused by it and too embarrassed to talk to anyone. Her self-esteem suffered, and so in turn did her performance. Eventually, she just stopped keeping records altogether. Which is why, when she got sick, her replacement had no way of knowing the details or histories of any of her clients. The result was a frustrating and confusing back and forth, ending with an official complaint being lodged. If Angela had spoken up, her employer could have organised a training program tailored to Angela's needs. A targeted training program would mean Angela could keep her records, like always, leaving her free for the more important things.
I like to use the analogy that probably 30 years ago, workplace health and safety was not something that workplaces took as seriously as they do today. And whereas today it's part of every workplace, and a very important part of that, I think also, that language literacy and numeracy, and perhaps by a different name, perhaps communication, to look at the broadness of it, needs to be part of every workplace.
How can I implement that in my business?
The first thing you should do is get involved with the Workplace English Language and Literacy, or WELL program. It's a flexible program that's tailored to the specific needs of your workforce.
I don't think I can afford that.
It's 75% government funded, and it's an investment in your staff and the future of your company. What you should ask yourself, Leo, is how can you afford not to?
Well, what's my next step?
There's a range of things you can do. Contact your Industry Skills Council or your state training bodies for more advice, or go to Australian Government Skills Connect.